Hello and welcome everyone to Kevin's Corner. I'm your host, Kevin Horner of Galligan and Manning. Thank you for joining me with a very, very special episode of Kevin's Corner. As you know, we've been staying at home. We're under the stay-at-home order right now, so we're all working remotely, as are my other coworkers now, such as my wife, Claire Horner, who is a bioethicist at the Baylor College of Medicine. And as that relates closely to what we do, we thought we would do a special episode where I would ask her some questions and she'd give some information about choosing your medical spokesperson and kind of considerations you have to have about medical decision making now. So I already mentioned she's a bioethicist at the Baylor College of Medicine. This is obviously only her opinion. She's not speaking on behalf of the Baylor College of Medicine. But with that said, I think she can give us some really good opinions that we should all be listening to. So first, Claire, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I wanted to ask this question. So if a patient is going to come to the hospital, how do the doctors know who to speak to about that patient?
Well, typically if a patient is coming into the emergency room, whoever's bringing them in is the first person they're going to turn to for information. Name and information about the patient. They will probably ask who is the next of kin. Are there other family members that they can call? Do you have any documents? Do you know if the patient has documents? If the person bringing the patient in, assuming the patient can't talk to us, says, oh yes, I have their advance directive right here, that's very helpful. But otherwise, they really are relying on the people that are there next to them, or if maybe the patient has been in the hospital before, there may be an emergency contact on the chart.
Okay. So it sounds like the documents are really important. If someone doesn't have a document, though, how does the doctor make the decision, or who do they go to then?
That's a really great question. So if there are no documents, the state actually does provide in their laws a hierarchy of people who are chosen to be decision makers on behalf of patients. So if I, for example, don't have a medical power of attorney where I have named someone to make medical decisions for me in the event that I can't, or I don't have a legal guardian, the first person that would make decisions for me would be my spouse. Now, importantly, that doesn't differentiate between separated or together. It's only married or divorced. After that, if I don't have a spouse or my spouse is unavailable, it would go to any adult children. After that, your parents. And then after that, any nearest living relative, with some caveats to that as well.
Okay. So then with that all in mind, is there any recommendations you have for planning ahead or how to pick a person who could fulfill these roles for you?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, it's important for everyone to pick someone to make decisions for them if they are unable to, if they're incapacitated. Maybe they're unconscious or they're not really aware of what's going on and can't participate in their own decision making. It's really important to have at least one person who you trust to make medical decisions for you. Ideally, we would have at least two people, have one main person and then a backup if that person is unavailable. And you want to think to yourself, who do I trust to know me well enough to know what I would want in these situations? One of the most important things you can do is not just pick a person, but to tell them that you've chosen them and to tell them what your wishes are. Tell them if you have strong feelings about whether or not you'd want to have a breathing tube, whether or not you'd want to live in a nursing home. All of these are really important things for your healthcare agent to know to help them to make decisions. And they're really not making decisions based on what they want, they're making decisions based on what you want. So either what you've already told them that you want, or based on what they know about you. I know that this person has these values, these goals, this is what they like to do, and so this is the kind of decision I think that the patient would make if the patient could talk to us. Another thing that's really important is to make sure that you're picking someone who you know can carry out your wishes. You may pick your spouse who knows that you may not want to have advanced life support in the event that you have a terminal illness. But your spouse may, even knowing that, say, I still can't make that decision to say, don't put that person on a breathing tube. So you want to make sure that you pick someone who not only knows your wishes, but is going to be able to carry them out. A lot of times it's an extremely emotionally difficult time, emotionally difficult decisions. So you want to make sure that somebody feels comfortable carrying out your wishes. And finally, when you do complete these documents, one thing that's very important to do is to put them in an envelope on your refrigerator. And the reason for that is because I mentioned before that somebody might bring you into the hospital if you're unconscious, but if you call EMS and there's nobody there, the first thing they're going to do is look at the refrigerator to see if there's any living will or advanced care planning documents that they can bring with them. This will have a document that goes right with you to the hospital that says, in the event of an emergency, this is who you should contact. So these are really important tips for just making sure that you have the right representative to be talking to the physicians on your behalf and being able to make the decisions that you would make if you were able to do so.
Excellent. Well, thank you for all those wonderful ideas. As you probably all heard, as part of that, how critical it is to have these kind of documents, not to leave it up to a statutory hierarchy, not to leave it up to a person guessing what it is you want. We, as part of our estate planning, do those kinds of documents, the medical powers of attorney, the living wills, etc. We do that all of the time in part of our estate planning, and we are frequently right now getting a lot of calls as people are worried about the coronavirus about this. If that's something that you want to do or to get updated, maybe most importantly, we can do that remotely. And so you can call our office, we can have a phone or a video consultation like this, figure out what it is that we need to do, and then make arrangements to execute those remotely so that if you need to use them, they've been updated. Okay? So if you want to see more information about this, go to our website, galliganmanning.com, or you can certainly see through the past Kevin's Corners if we've talked about this at least tangentially a few times. So with that, I want to say thank you all very much. I want to thank our very special guest, Claire Horner of Baylor College of Medicine. I look forward to seeing you all next Thursday for our next Kevin's Corner.